Williams, and today I'm going to walk you through my completed biology lesson plan. So the standards that I chose were the biology standard HE4B3, which is to use the laws of probability and Punnett squares to predict genotypic and phenotypic ratios. I chose the Algebra 2 standard because it paired really well with the biology standard when it comes to relating the ratios to real-world examples. So that Algebra 2 standard is HSSIC-A1, and that is to recognize statistics as a process for making inferences about population parameters based on a random sample from that population. So my objective for student learning for this lesson is that students will be able to define the differences between genotypic and phenotypic ratios, fill out Punnett squares, and make inferences about our population based on those results. I've chosen these objectives because it's important that students know the differences between the two types of results that we're finding, with the genotypic and phenotypic. And I've also chosen these objectives because students need to know not only how to find the results, but how to apply them to real-world situations. Let me scroll down. So for Section 2, Student Grouping, I chose to do my introduction as a whole group. My class activity is partnered work, closing is a report back session, and the final piece of our classroom is an individual assessment. I've just explained the concepts that we'll be covering without taking up the majority of our class time. It also allows me to give instructions for the partnered activity that they'll have where the entire class can hear it. Students will be partnered off for the activity because partners still put a significant amount of responsibility on each student, but it also gives students another mind to think along with. I'll partner like-minded students or students that complement each other. Students that complement each other, for example, maybe my reading deficit student paired with my student that loves to read aloud. After the group activity is when we'll come back to whole grouping for a report back session. The report back session allows me to see strengths and weaknesses within the class and kind of recover the concept and work on any kinks that they may have with it before they get individually assessed. And individual assessment allows me to modify for any students that may need it. So Section 3, my computer will stop. The methods that I'll be using is lecture with discussion, partnered activities, report back sessions, Marzano's third strategy, which is cooperative learning, so kind of the partner activity, the explicit teaching method, and an individual assessment. I've chosen lecture and discussion because, again, it allows me to go over the concepts at the beginning of class, and it also gives the students opportunities to ask questions before they break into pairs. Marzano's third strategy falls in with the partner activity and the report back session. I chose a partner activity so that students have another mind to think along with and someone to help them through filling out Punnett squares. Once they have completed their assignment, we go to the report back session. And I chose this method so that we can see any areas that our class struggled with and see where they succeeded. It also allows me to gauge whether the students are ready for a formal assessment, and pending that I felt that they picked up on the concept within the class period, there will be an individual assessment at the end. So now we move on to reached activities. The introduction, I will begin with the whole group discussion of the content. Next will be guided practice. I'll guide the students through several practice problems before they're partnered up. Partnered work is the handout that I'll give to each student with their partner. Report back session closing, I will discuss the workout sheet with the worksheet with the students, and that way we can work through any mistakes that they have, and that gives me a chance to explain the importance of how these ratios relate to real world situations. And then last is the formative assessment, which I will assess the students through a quiz to see how they understand the topic. I've chosen these activities because it's better to start with an open discussion and give the class instructions for the activity. I chose to do a guided practice so that I can help eliminate any mistakes that they may be having initially before they go to partnered work. I chose partnered work so that they have someone to work out these Punnett squares problems with. I chose a report back session so that we can work through any problems that the class is having. And then I chose to go with a formative assessment to see how well they grasp the concept and if they're ready to move on to another concept. I also chose this form of assessment because I'm able to modify a quiz for any students with IEPs or 504s. So next we're going to move on to materials. Let's see. Section 5, materials and resources. The materials that I will use are the textbook, PowerPoint, the whiteboard and whiteboard markers, handouts, pencils if they can't provide their own, and a formative quiz handout rating. I chose the textbook obviously because it's part of our curriculum, and I made PowerPoints to go along with it. This allows me to cater to my different types of learners, read out of the textbook or look along on the board, because usually I try to include some extra pictures and extra examples. The whiteboard and whiteboard markers are the most efficient way or efficient item to use in a guided practice because all students can see the board. Handouts will be used during partner work for further practice. Students should provide their own pencils during class, but I always have a few spares because we know how that goes. And then the formative quiz handout will be used to assess the student's knowledge and be taken up for a grade. And then the computer's freaking out a little, but let's see if we can get down to evaluation. Okay, evaluation. How and when do I plan to evaluate student learning? First, an informal evaluation, and this is just done by me gauging how well the students do on the handout based on our report back session. So just kind of seeing where the students are at. The formal evaluation is done at the end of the class period, grasp the concepts, and then the quiz will be taken up for a grade. I chose an informal evaluation because this allows me to see where my students stand without the pressure of being graded on something. And if I feel that the report back session goes well and I see a lot of successes among our students, I know that they're ready for the formal assessment. If the class is still struggling or we're still having problems in one area, I know that I may need to go back and cover some things with them before we take our quiz. And then I chose to do a formal assessment so that the students have a chance to work independently and show me that they grasp the concepts and understand the standards. And that's it.